There's a bowl that has never once been empty, and it lives on a wooden shelf in a small kitchen in Nara, Japan. The bowl is not for eating. It is not for display. It is not even particularly beautiful to look at. Chipped along the rim, the glaze crazed like riverbeds in drought, a single crack held together with gold that has darkened to bronze. But here is the truth that unsettles everything you think you know about objects. If you place this bowl on a scale, it will be heavier than the day it was fired, heavier by the weight of almost 300 years of meals it has never let go of. Stay with me here. The official story of any bowl is simple. A bowl is empty until you fill it. You eat from it. You wash it. You put it away. The emptiness is its natural state. That is what modern hygiene tells us, what the dishwasher cycle teaches, what the manufacturers assume when they design dinnerware for a world that scrubs away every trace of the last meal. But there is another story, older than sanitation, older than the chemical detergents we trust to strip the world clean. And this story lives in the seasoning of the bowl. In the ancient pottery traditions of Japan, there is a practice called kizushi, and it is the exact opposite of everything we believe about clean dishes. Kizushi is the art of never fully washing a pot. The word itself carries weight. Ki means spirit or atmosphere, and sushi comes from the verb suzukeru, to continue. The spirit continues. Every meal leaves something behind. A layer of lipid, a whisper of oil, a microscopic landscape of flavor that builds upon itself like rings in a tree. The bowl in Nara has been seasoned with every meal it has ever served, so every meal leaves its mark on the clay, just as every moment leaves a mark on you. If that kind of quiet wonder speaks to something deep in you, save this video. Let it be the one you return to when you need to remember that objects hold more than we see. And in the comments, tell me about one vessel in your kitchen that you suspect carries a story you haven't yet uncovered. But here's the beautiful part. The bowl does not just remember flavor. It remembers context. The potters who built it understood that a bowl is not an empty vessel waiting to be filled. It is a living archive, and the act of seasoning is the act of writing. In the same way that a wooden cutting board absorbs the oils of 1,000 onions, the same way a cast iron skillet becomes non-stick through decades of fat that polymerizes into a black mirror, a ceramic bowl can hold memory if you let it. And we have evidence. In 2017, researchers at the University of Hokkaido analyzed residue from Jomon period pottery fragments dated to approximately 15,000 years ago. They found traces of aquatic lipids, plant oils, and animal fats still present in the porous walls of the clay. 15,000 years of memory locked in a shard. The bowl in Nara is not even 3 centuries old. It is still writing its story, and this is the detail most people miss. The bowl has never been empty, because it was never meant to be empty in the way we think. In the Japanese tradition of nabemono, the one-pot meal, the pot itself is the teacher. A chef who inherits an earthen nabe from her grandmother does not wash it with soap. She rinses it with hot water, allows it to dry in the sun, and sometimes she oils it lightly before storage. She is not cleaning. She is maintaining an ecosystem. She is keeping the spirit of the first meal alive, so that every subsequent meal builds upon that foundation. And here is the first crack in the official story. If you have ever scraped a pan and wondered what flavor you are washing away, you know the quiet guilt of erasing a meal's ghost. The rational mind says, clean, sterile, start fresh. But something deeper whispers that you just threw away history. That whisper is older than your doubt. It reaches back to the first clay vessels shaped by human hands, when the pot was not a container but a womb, a cooking surface, a ceremonial object that held not just food, but the memory of the fire that made it possible. The crack deepens, because here is the second fact that does not fit the official story. The bowl in Nara is not unique. There are pots all over Japan, Korea, and parts of China that have not been washed with detergent in living memory. In the Korean tradition of Jangdok, the earthenware pots used for fermenting soybean paste and gochujang are never scrubbed clean. The mouth of the jar is covered with a cloth. The pot sits in the courtyard, and the fermentation happens partly because of the living culture embedded in the clay itself. One family in Jeju province has a Jangdok pot that has been in continuous use for over 400 years. The pot has never been empty. It cannot be empty. The lactobacillus and yeast that give the paste its character live in the walls of the clay. Sterilize that pot, and you kill the history. You kill the connection to the ancestors who first shaped it. This is the detail that shifts everything. The bowl is not empty, because emptiness is not its natural state. Emptiness is the wound. Emptiness is the erasure. The bowl is full of everything that has ever happened inside it. Every meal, every celebration, every morning, every quiet breakfast alone at dawn. The gold that repairs the crack is a Japanese technique called Kintsugi, which makes the brokenness part of the object's beauty. But the bowl's real Kintsugi is invisible. It is the gold of memory, the lacquer of flavor, the mending of time through the continuity of use. Notice what happens next. The third crack is the hardest to accept, because it challenges the very foundation of how we value objects in the modern world. We treat pots and bowls as tools, replaceable. We buy them from mass production lines where 1,000 identical bowls come out of the same machine, each one perfectly empty, each one waiting for someone to imprint it with meaning. But the bowl in Nara is not a tool. It is a participant. It has agency. The seasoning is not passive. It changes the flavor of everything placed inside it. A pot that has simmered miso soup for 50 years makes miso soup taste different from a new pot made of the same clay. The pot is not simply carrying the liquid. It is contributing its own voice. And that voice is the accumulated voice of every meal it has ever held. So the pot is not a silent container. It sings with the harmony of every broth, every celebration, every solitary breakfast it has known. This is a truth worth living with, not just hearing once. Stay with this channel so we can keep uncovering the hidden lives of the objects that hold our history. And right now, drop a word in the comments. One meal whose echo you still feel in your kitchen. Tell me its name. The science confirms this. Lipid polymerization means that fats chemically bond to the surface of unglazed or microporous ceramics over time. This is not grime in the way we think of grime. It is a chemical transformation. The pot becomes a different material. In some Nabishima ware, the unglazed rim of the bowl is intentionally left rough so that the seasoning can enter the clay. The bowl is designed to remember, designed to be a living archive from the moment it is fired. So why do we scrub everything bare? Why does the modern kitchen demand sterilization, bleach, the complete removal of all biological traces? The answer is fear. The Industrial Revolution brought with it a terror of contamination, a justified fear of disease in crowded cities where sanitation was poor. That fear saved lives, but it also severed our connection to the wisdom of objects. We began to treat every pot as a potential threat rather than a potential ancestor. The old grandmothers who never washed their cast iron with soap were dismissed as unsanitary, primitive, superstitious. But they were not superstitious. They were custodians of flavor. They understood that a pot is a living thing. And here is where the story becomes personal. If you are the kind of person who has ever felt a strange tenderness toward an old pot, a battered skillet, a chipped ceramic bowl that your mother used every holiday, you already know this truth. You already feel the resistance when you have to scrub it too hard. You already sense that the dark patina on the inside carries something more than carbon. It carries time. It carries hands. It carries the ghost of the first meal that ever made someone smile at your table. The bowl in Nara knows exactly what it holds. Every new year, the family brings out the bowl and serves zoni, the traditional mochi soup that marks the passing of the old year into the new. The soup that simmers in that bowl is different from any other zoni in Japan. It carries the accumulated flavor of 280 years of New Year's mornings. The grandmother who serves it does not explain why it tastes like memory. She does not have to. The bowl speaks for itself. If you could taste that broth, you would taste the 17th generation. You would taste the seasons of rice, the particular snowfall of one winter in the 1880s, the sweetness of a childhood memory that has no date but lives in the walls of the clay. But there is one more layer, and this is the deepest. The bowl is not empty, because it was never meant to be empty. But there is another dimension to its fullness that most people never consider. The bowl holds absence as well as presence. Every meal that was eaten from it is a meal that ended. The family gathered. The steam rose. The broth was consumed, and then the bowl sat empty until the next meal. But the emptiness after the meal is not true emptiness. Here's a pause, a breath. The bowl rests, gathers itself, and waits. In that waiting, it is still full of the heat that just left it, the scent that lingers in its pores, the silence of the room after the last spoonful. And in that silence, new memory begins to form. This is the truth that changes how we see every object in our lives. The bowl has never been empty because nothing is ever truly empty. Every object carries the residue of its history. The spoon that your grandmother stirred the soup with holds the motion of her hand. The cutting board has the geography of 10,000 knife strokes. The pot that you washed last night is still humming with the ingredients that gave their life to feed you. And here is the confrontation that this story demands of you. If you look around your own kitchen right now, at the pots you have scrubbed until they gleamed like new, what did you erase? The cast iron skillet you scoured with soap and steel wool. Did you feel a twinge of something when the black seasoning flaked away? That twinge was not sentimentality. It was the loss of a layer of time that you cannot get back. Every time you stripped a pan to bare metal, you performed an act of forgetting. Not just of a meal, but of the hands that made that meal possible. The transformation begins in a single decision. The next time you wash a pot that has served you well, pause before the soap. Rinse it with hot water instead. Let it air dry. See if the surface feels different after a week, after a month, after a year of seasoning. You are not being unsanitary. You are becoming a custodian. You are allowing the pot to become a participant in your life rather than a tool you dominate. This is not nostalgia. This is restoration. The bowl in Nara has taught me something that no book ever could. Memory does not need to be conscious to be real. It lives in the objects we touch, in the surfaces we season, in the cracks we repair with gold. The bowl is not a symbol of anything. It is a fact, a physical fact. It contains what it has received, and the same is true of every vessel you have ever held. The bowl has never been empty, and neither have you.